Next, I'm going to call up Leslie Nugent to give us some of the results from the breakout sessions.
Our amazing community champion and mentor and friend, Bob Agaris, was gonna do this share back. He was nominated by Uncle David. But I guess that's what it's like anytime you have an amazing teacher and mentor in your life. At some point, you get past the opportunity to step into new roles and grow. So I'm gonna share a little bit about the debrief that our facilitation team just had. It was just in the time that, the candidate panel has been happening here, so it was quick. We are going to compile all the information and we'll make that available on a Google Doc that we'll share out in our email list. So if you guys registered online for this event or if you signed in today, then we have your email and you'll be getting those communications so you can check it out for yourself. And I apologize for having my phone, but the chart paper, I had too many pages and all those things. So that's what I'm looking at, the notes that we took here. And again, this is not just me, this is all of our facilitation team that compiled this. So first of all, there was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. And there was a lot of gratitude for all the panelists who came and shared. And thank you to those who are still here in the crowd with us. We really appreciate your time. There was a request for more visuals, a desire to see more maps, to understand more about the landscape and past and current water systems. There was definitely interest in another water summit and or more conversations in order to figure out how we do this. We need to have more conversations, highlighting the things that the community doesn't know about. The panelists were really, having panelists here was really eye-opening for folks, right? Folks got to put faces with names, understand a little bit more about what different organizations do, but there's still a lot of interest. People want more of that. People want to understand where to get the information and how do they navigate where to get that information. There's a lot of okay, we have all these different entities, but where's the one place where we can find all the answers? And so I don't know what that is, but there's that curiosity of who holds this information and then what is the community's role in that. So there was a lot of interest in finding ways to have ongoing conversations with the panelists and the experts who are in the room today. How can we continue to have that conversation with our community in that dialogue? There's also a lot of openness right now. There was some of the facilitators noticed a greater interest today than we've seen in some of the other sessions that we've held around alternatives to just the ditch being the only solution for water in Kohala. So there was a lot of conversation around honoring the traditional ecological knowledge as a guiding force, recognizing that the forest is really important in the water cycle. The ideas of adopt a stream or kind of self-monitoring. How do we have community-based monitoring of these precious resources? There was interest in alternatives besides the ditch, such as reservoirs, the idea of smaller shared use wells, curiosity about the Kohala well, curiosity about the reservoir, Mauka of Lincoln, interest in redundancy and hybrid systems. Interest in systems that have a backup generators. How do we understand how to make these systems resilient? There was an interest in more information on that. There was a lot of curiosity in who manages the ditch. There was a lot of excitement today about the ABC. I think a lot of people learned for the first time or re-engaged with the Agribusiness Development Corporation and what's possible for that partnership and support here in Kohala. There's also curiosity could the ADC or could Hawaii Department of Agriculture be the entity that manages the ditch? What would that take and what would that look like? Obviously, there's a desire to get farmers on land and more food being produced and consumed. So what does that look like? What are the kind of ownership and lease structures we can explore? We've heard about ag parks today, but again, the interest in ag parks. There's excitement to explore funding solutions, what options are out there to fuel some of the vision for what we see is possible. And there were some concerns. There was concerns about how water resources are being utilized especially relating to like County of Hawaii variances and water being used for things like pools and development. Who and what kind of entities are seeking these variances, and how do we like access and subdivide county waters? There's a lot of curiosities there. There's concerns around just issues in access to water lines and how subdividing can create challenges for farmers and ranchers to be able to access land and water. Also, sometimes those subdividing or challenges accessing water creates challenge in family continuing to keep that land in their families for generations. They lose access to the viability of their land by not having access to water. That's something that folks are coming up against with, if some people are ranching, but their neighbors aren't ranching, and so they're not finding shared values around the water in that way. So that's something to explore. And then there's a lot of interest in engagement. We heard a lot of things about ways folks personally want to engage, but also the continuation of this like larger community collaboration. We heard interest in those last Thursday of the month agriculture meeting. There was interest that those meetings are hybrid for folks who want to cook dinner or have other kuleana and they can't make it to the meeting. So we hear that concern, no guarantees there, but we can work towards that. Let's see, there was an interest in seeing more kupuna in the conversations and more educators. And there was an interest in also, on the other side of that, there's an interest in seeing more youth and how do we engage the youth? And how do we have that like agricultural educational pipeline where there's opportunities for school gardens and folks to get involved along the way to really hear those youth voices in our process. So that was a lot of what we heard. I'm sure there's a lot more, but those are some of the common themes. And again, we will have this information accessible for you to explore, and we will continue to have the conversations in our last Thursday of the month agriculture working group. You guys will get our email. And big thanks to all of our facilitation team, our County of Hawaii team, Mala'ai, the Kohala Center, community members. Big thanks to Bob Agris, who's not here, but really decades of his support that we're leveraging to be able to have these kinds of conversations and quality of conversations today. So big thanks to him. When you see your facilitators around tonight, just give thanks for all their courage to step up. And thank you again to all our panelists and candidates and committee for organizing this. Mahalo.